Welcome everyone to the talk, the online talk with myself and Narayan, the relationship with pain. I'm Mira, and I wanted to do this talk or this interview with Narayan to share our relationship with pain. For myself, my relationship with pain has changed dramatically, particularly in the last year, and I think it's really cool to share that with you guys so that you can see what's possible for yourself. So we've also got on the call Narayan. You'd like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Can everybody hear me? Hi, I'm Narayan. If I haven't met you before, it's nice to see you in a little square on Zoom.
Yeah, so we're going to start by sharing our own relationship with pain. For me, I actually used to kind of have a relationship with pain like I thought it was great that I had a high pain threshold, you know. So my dad was a dentist and he used to do fillings for me without injections, and I almost wore it as a badge of honor that I had a high pain threshold, and that seemed like a really cool thing to me. And over the years, it's kind of worn me down, and I got to the point where, yeah, I had enough. I don't want to have this relationship with pain to live life so attached to it, so absorbed in it. You know, it's been demoralizing having long-term chronic pain, and so I kind of set out to see what was possible. I'm an Ashaya monk, and I learned the Ascension practice, and through my Ascension practice and becoming a monk, it's been quite a revelation actually, so that I see the world and myself, my body symptoms very, very differently, much more clearly than I used to. And so I used to be really bogged down in pain, but now I rarely experience pain actually. And when I do, it's not something that is a locked experience. You know, I can choose again for another experience that completely changes my experience of how I experience my body. So that's my experience. So I was going to ask you too, Narayan, how your experience is with pain, you know, now and how it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, a similar thing really. The whole experience of having pain has changed completely. I was born with a spinal condition, and there came a point when in my 30s, some point where that flared immensely, and I would spend time regularly and semi-regularly where I couldn't get out of bed for days and days at a time. And a lot of you have pain, like, you know what that is. And so immediately, of course, like, I was quite fit and active and doing a lot of things, and so all my energy went into, I don't want to have this pain. I don't want to live like this. And of course, like, nobody does want to live like that, but that, and we'll share this with you over the course of this little chat, I guess, but that set up a whole different kind of challenges when it came to having the pain. But like Mira said, and we'll talk about why this is so, but over the course of, especially since learning to ascend, and the more my experience of presence has solidified and grown, my relationship with what I would call pain, the relationship with that experience has changed. It didn't change overnight, but it has changed completely. It's no longer anything that's debilitating. And so if there's anything, hopefully, that we can share, because there's so many aspects to the benefits that Ascension are bringing. And one of the things that it really can change your relationship with is an ongoing experience of pain. And many of you, I can see your faces in the little boxes here. And some of you I know, because I've been blessed enough to be able to witness how your relationship with pain has actually changed over a few short years. But any valid practice of growth of consciousness and meditation, but particularly Ascension, it has the potential to revolutionize your relationship with that experience. So, and that's how it's been for me.
Yeah, it is. It's remarkable actually to see how different my experience has changed over the years. You know, I think the first time it really started to change was when I was on a Bright Path retreat, and I was in a lot of pain, and it had been building up throughout the course of the day. And I remember I was actually coming to see you, Narayan, to ask for help because I was struggling. But you weren't there, and I got Garuda. So Garuda offered me help. He's another Shaya monk, and it was an incredible experience. Actually, you may well remember it. It was the 10-day retreat you do in the UK when it was in Oxford before I became a teacher. And yeah, I was in so much pain, and I kind of just wanted him to take it away from me, really. You know, I just wanted it to stop. I wanted it to leave. That's what I wanted. And instead, you know, he just looked me in the eye and just said, "Can you let it be there right now?" And like 99% of me wanted to scream at him, "No, I don't. I want it gone. I want it gone. I've had enough. You know, I've been dealing with this all day." And yet he was just so still and present with me, so kind and loving in that moment, that I'm like, okay, just for this moment, I'll let it be there. And you know, something absolutely profound and amazing happened. The pain completely and utterly went in an instant. There was no, it gradually eased, it just went. And I just felt like a surge of energy, and it kind of just felt like my heart was opening, and I was just actually letting myself be me. And that was the first moment that made me realize that, yeah, maybe I don't have to actually live with this pain like I have been living. But it's been a bit of a dance since then, because obviously it was an amazing experience, but then I would kind of let it be there for it to go, which it's not the same thing at all. So, you know, like Narayan said, it's not always an instant thing. It's been a journey. It's been a journey of realizations and recognition of what I'm often doing. Often that's mental dialogue, but what I'm doing, what I'm resisting, that creates this experience that I call pain.
Yeah, that word resistance is and you know this, and almost all of you will have experienced this actually. It's that the difference in the level of what we call pain, like the intensity of it, is so dependent on how much we're resisting the experience. You know, when you said that, Mira, that was exactly how it was for me. And I know, because I've heard some of you share, when you allow the experience to be there without any resistance, the intensity of just the pain diminishes and can disappear completely. Actually, it's an amazing thing how much our resistance to having the experience recreates it in a lot of ways. And that to me is the value of something like Ascension or a path of consciousness, is because, you know that when the pain came into my spine in a way that was quite debilitating, and I said earlier, what I wanted to do was to get rid of the pain. I didn't want to live with the pain. And it took me a little while to recognize that the pain wasn't actually a thing in and of itself. Right? I was trying to get rid of this thing that was hurting me, but I never really spent much time looking at why was it hurting me. You know, the pain was like a protection mechanism. It was there because something else was going on that I wasn't aware of. And so really, when I started to realize that, and I'd been ascending for a long time, it allowed me to slowly, and I at the time I didn't see it like this, but move from a space of like absolute resistance and hatred for the pain that I was experiencing, really, towards and eventually into an experience of actually gratitude for it. You know, like there was a benefit in the experience I was having, and what the benefit was for me was that I started to be able to become aware of what was actually going on in my body, and not just in my body, by the way, but in my world in general, the world in general, because there's not compartmentalized areas of life. it's not, I mean, we can talk about it as if there is, and it's cool, like we're talking about pain here, but no matter what it is that is in our awareness right now, it's representative of something that's playing out in every area of our life. And I'm not kidding when I say that I moved into a place of gratitude for the experience, because what I began to learn about myself and my world, my consciousness, my place, what I began to learn, I would not have traded those gifts. I wouldn't have got rid of the pain if it meant that I couldn't have learned the things that I learned. I wouldn't have changed a thing. And I was sharing with the girls at the start of the year, I had another experience, a massive physical experience that was quite absolute. And I immediately, I have nothing but gratitude for the fact that that happened, because what I have learned since then, what I have become since then, what I have realized since then, I would not want to trade that experience for those gifts. And so really, like, recognizing if you have pain and you haven't seen it like this, the pain isn't the thing. It's a protective mechanism. It's saying, hey, hey, there's something here that we got to be aware of. There's something going on that we got to bring our awareness to. And it may not even be something in the body, but it probably is. But there's, you know, pain is a real protective mechanism for human beings. I mean, if we step out onto the footpath and somebody's coming past on, I don't know, rollerblades or a bicycle or something, we get out of the way. And it's not, we don't get out of the way. We may think we do. We don't get out of the way out of kindness. Hey, you know, have my path on the footpath. We get out of the way because if we don't, we know it's going to hurt. Right? We know it's going to hurt. And so because we've learned that, even the potential of pain is somehow protected. What I'm saying is, like, underneath the experience of pain, the pain itself, of course, you don't want to live with that. And if I could take it away from anybody, I would do that. And yet, it's a flag that's waving that we need to come into more balance. We need to find there's something to be aware of, you know. And so that's why meditation is such a tool, because what it does is it expands your awareness. And so I want you to realize that that's what consciousness and awareness is. When we talk about it, it is mystical. It is absolutely a mystical journey, but it's not removed from your life. It's actually your life is the key to it. And so it's about becoming more aware of what's actually here, not resisting part of it, not pushing it away, not trying to get rid of it, but just, okay, how much more of this can I be aware of? And in that awareness, you begin to see so much. So really it's a path of allowing yourself little by little to drop the resistance, or all at once if you can. I'd highly recommend it. Dropping the resistance to the experience. And pains, for those of us who experience pain or have experienced pain, the ego doesn't want to do that. It doesn't want to drop the resistance to it, because every part of the ego wants to get rid of it. But in doing so, we miss the gift.
Yeah, I was actually just going to share then about, because I have two quite distinct experiences with pain. One is with the long-term chronic pain, which I started to change my relationship with. And then I got dropped straight in the middle of some acute pain with broken ribs. And, you know, with long-term pain, there's kind of like this idea, and I understand that it's helpful to look at it that we're not broken, you know, that there's not something wrong with us that needs to be fixed or changed. But when I had broken ribs, it was just like, well, I actually was broken in that moment. And, you know, I don't know if anybody's experienced probably any broken bone, but it's very debilitating. And with ribs, it's like you can't move, you can't cough, you can't laugh, you know, even to reach and get my drink, it was like, you know, literally winded you and stabbed you. And so I just had this experience, and I've been suffering up until this point. And I thought, right, well, here's a chance to play, to explore with what I'd learned with my long-term chronic pain. And so I started to play with just letting it be there exactly as it was, and just to tune into my body and just be fully present in my body. And it started to change. It's kind of glimpses at first, but it started to change, and it happened for longer and longer periods of time where there would be no pain, like the pain just left. There was no suffering, no pain. And also what I found remarkable and didn't expect was I had more movement. So when I was kind of in a resisting state, I could hardly move, you know. But when I kind of entered this surrendered state, just by playing with just letting everything be exactly as it was right now, when I played with that, I could actually lean and get my drink and not be winded, you know, and that I found quite remarkable. So it's an ongoing exploration and discovery for me to see what's actually possible. Like, I've always been a really curious person, and I think curiosity has been something that I often suggest to others, you know, and very useful on a path. You know, you have a meditation technique, and then it's exploring and being more curious about that stillness and silence that people talk about than you are about your body symptoms, you know, because then your body symptoms, your experience of them, is put back into context, and it changes your perception of them, your direct experience of them. So it's a curious thing.
What about, you know, like what's your experience, Mira, about the difference between, because pain, to talk about sometimes pain disappearing or whatever, when you know, and I know everybody here knows, when pain is up, and especially when it's something that's familiar and with you, the idea that it could suddenly disappear is sometimes like, it's a little bit of a stretch, right? Because it's a familiar friend, and there's a that has its own set of challenges. But so what's the difference for you between the experience of pain and suffering?
Yeah, so for me, suffering happens when I'm fighting and battling and resisting and wanting things to change. And so when I'm doing that, then there'll be suffering. There isn't always pain actually within that. So with my long-term mobility issues that I have with my pelvis, and the whole thing flared up. I think you were there when it happened a year ago in May. And I suffered massively, but I wasn't actually experiencing a lot of pain. I think everyone assumed I was in pain because I was barely able to move. I couldn't walk for a few days, so it was very debilitating. And so in that experience, I was suffering for a little period of time. I didn't want it. You know, that's what caused me the biggest amount of suffering, was because I didn't want it, and I was afraid at how long it was going to last, you know, because it's an experience that's come back again and again. I've had this condition, which is called symphysis pubis dysfunction. I've had it since the birth of my second child, who's now 17. So a very, very long time, and it's gone away and it's come back. And so, yeah, the suffering was there, but I wasn't actually in any pain. And there are other times when I can experience pain, but no suffering. But there's not the battle there. It's very subtle. There's probably some resistance, or in my experience, I wouldn't be experiencing pain. But what I've recognized recently with a few headaches that I've had, I haven't had headaches for a very long time, but I've had a few recently, probably because I'm starting to share my experience. It's like the universe always goes, here you go, when you start exploring it and sharing and saying that, you know. But I had a couple of headaches recently that kind of floored me a little bit. They weren't actually that painful though, but there was definitely just a desire for it to be gone, you know, like I was looking at kind of putting more awareness in the stillness, and then it would fade away, but then it would come back. It would always keep coming back. And actually what made the difference for me was something your wife said, Sata said, Narayan, something along the lines of, don't waste a second trying to get rid of something from your experience. And I heard that, and boom, the pain left. And it's a funny thing, because we just don't often see what we're doing, how we're resisting. And for me, it's all about getting a greater level of alertness so you can see. so you can see the thoughts that are maybe behind there, or the resistance to an emotion, or the body sensation. So I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, there is a difference.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. You know, too, like when I first found out about the spinal thing, and I have had lots of other different kinds of pain too, mostly self-inflicted. but I was quite enjoying. I did yoga hours a day. Like I've always loved doing yoga, and I was getting really into it. And so then this thing happens, and I was in the United States when it happened. And in the United States, I wanted to go to a chiropractor, but you can't go. No one will touch you without a full X-ray, everything, right? They do everything first. And so they found out about this condition, which I had never known before. And it's funny you say, like, to be aware of the ways that we resist and we don't necessarily see it. You know, part of this path, any path of consciousness, to become more conscious, it means to be, I love the word you use, curious. I've used that for a long time because it really means just to gently and innocently, without an agenda, pay attention. And one of the things that I started to hear was that I started to say, and it took me a little while to catch it, I started to say, I have this condition. This is what I have. Right? And it had nothing to do with what I was actually experiencing. It had to do with the label. I have this condition. And of course, there may be something going on in the body, but I saw really how solidifying that is, the languaging of it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if any of you get it. Hopefully I'm not confusing you all, but it makes it very solid and forever. I have this. And also, it may not be like this for everybody, but for me, it was quite defensive without actually being challenged on the fact that I had this experience. It was very much like, I have this and you all can just stay right out of it. This is my business, right? And what I started to realize was that even in my languaging, even though language is only a thing, as I became aware of it, I saw the power of it, because what I wasn't doing was it was much more freeing to say, well, right now there is this experience of pain, or right now there is this burning sensation, or right now there is this whatever. It was much more open-ended. It was just a simple statement of what I was actually experiencing. And I know it sounds trite, and I'm not trying to say only do it through language, but becoming aware of everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we give attention to as a thought speaks volumes about what we actually believe and what we will allow ourselves to experience. You know, and so in that curious allowing without resistance of just to have the experience that's coming to you now, there is no commentary about it. And when the commentary disappears, when the thinking about it disappears, your relationship to what's actually happening changes, and it's immediate. The more present you can be with what's happening and really pay attention to if you are or are not resisting, when that disappears, the level of pain, the intensity of it, it diminishes. And I'm not going to promise that it'll go to zero, but you'll see. And it's a path worth exploring if pain is something that is in your experience a lot. But that's what I heard myself saying almost habitually was very much an indicator that this was a solid experience that was going to stay forever and ever. And that's not how I play. That's not how I was willing to play. And I'm super grateful that I saw it, because it changed the way I experienced a lot of areas of life, actually.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience to that as well. You know, it's become very clear to me that there are times when I experience my body through my mind's perception of what is happening. You know, like the mind will have an opinion about what's going on. You know, I've had symphysis pubis for 17 odd years, and I know what is going on. And it's like I slide into this identification with it, and it's just like ownership of it. Like I almost put like the hat on it, and the jacket, and the whole suit sometimes, you know. And I get immersed in the experience of I have this condition. And when I started to see that, it was the same. You know, it's just like the words you use, it makes a really big difference. And I can still say I have it, but because I became aware of that identification, I can say it, I have it now, and it doesn't then lead to that same locked in experience of ownership of this condition and that it's always going to be this way. You know, for me, there's always a chance for it to be different because I've experienced that now. It's not just a concept for me anymore. And that's the thing, isn't it? That it's an ongoing investigation. Whenever I think, well, I know if I put my attention more in stillness, it will go. You know, I know that. But there are times when I think I'm doing that, and there's just like a little bit of thought in there, or there's just resistance. Like I'll let it go so I can experience peace. You know, it's not quite the same thing. There's a subtle step that I have to do. And an agenda that I want to happen that colours my experience. You know, this moment is enough. But if I don't let this moment be enough, if I want it to be any different from how it is right now, then suffering starts to sneak in. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have anything else that you want to add? About this, Narayan, or should we open up to questions? It's been about 30 minutes.
I think we can open up the box because the nut of it. I mean, I think what's been shared is like a really cool perspective on the experience of pain. So I think if we open up the chat box for people to ask or share whatever they want, that'd be great.
So if you're all aware of how to use the chat box, then and you have a question, please type it in. If you're not, the chat box is located at the bottom of the screen usually, or if you're on an iPhone or iPad, it might be at the top of the screen. But if you can find it and you want to ask a question, then type it in.
But while we're waiting for that, can I say one more thing? That, you know, we all have a flavor which is particularly attractive to us. That's really the thing that we're intimate with. You know, it may be body pain, or it may be a particular kind of life circumstance, or it could be a sequence of thoughts or an emotional experience, whatever it is. You know, and the value of not resisting and really applying awareness to it is that, you know, we've all said this a lot, we've all heard this a lot, but it's never been more true in my experience, that the way we do any one thing is the way we do everything. And so in exploring the relationship with that intimate, the thing that's intimate to us, and in the context of this talk, pain, if we can change our relationship to the way we do pain, we can change our relationship to the way we do everything. You know, and that's what I mean about moving from a place where we just want to get rid of it because we don't like it. You can actually move into a space of gratitude for the experience. And that's true for anything in life. And that's what this teaching, and I think everybody here ascends, but if you don't, you really should, because it moves you into a place of genuine gratitude if you apply it. And gratitude is the key to all kinds of miracles and wonder. It really, really is. But nothing's happening without purpose, nothing. And life exists to show us where we're resisting and where we're holding on, so we can let go of the resistance. And once the resistance is let go of, life can show us something new. So anyway, anything in the chat box?
Yes, we have some questions. So from Kay, she has concerns of future surgery after previous past surgery outcomes.
Yeah.
So is there a question in there? Like,
yeah, I think she's asking for advice because she has concerns about future surgery, having had surgery before and certain outcomes from that.
yeah, well, my experience of any operations, I've not actually had any for my condition, but I was when I first had it about a year after I'd had my child. So I had 2 young children. one was a baby, and they wanted to put a metal plate in the front of my pelvis to kind of bolt me together. and I didn't really like the idea of that, so I explored other routes. So for me, it really comes down to not thinking, not going down the garden path and thinking in the future about what could or could not happen. It's come back to this moment. Is there something that needs to be done right now? Is there something that you can do to help right now? If there is, then do it. If there's not, then leave it, because the more you become present, the more you'll recognize that actually anything that serves, anything that's useful will show up in your awareness, and it's just developing trust with that, really. For me, as I've explored this and done whatever naturally feels right to do, if it's not been right, then it's become quite apparent. But if you're not actually having a surgery right now and you don't necessarily need to have it, then it's not something that you need to even think about. And so if your mind goes there, if you do start thinking about it, just keep come back with the Ascension techniques, and come back with being more curious about what's there for you in this moment. Any other questions?
Yes, we have 2 questions that are quite similar. One of them is, do you think it's possible for your body to heal conditions on its own without medical help? And the other one is, what is your attitude about taking medicine to help relieving the pain?
Is that me?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a funny thing, because I have a close friend who's been in the Shire for a long time, and got quite sick. And one of the things, he's always been like super into natural medicines and all of these things, and been a real authority on it, actually. And part of the gift, I think, in having the experience that he had, was that he actually had to surrender to allopathic medicine, to Western medicine, because they had the answer at the time. So, like all of it comes from the same source. And so, what you want to do is do what you got to do to take care of what's happening for you right now, like to take care of that, but look for ways of restoring balance to every part of your life. That may involve some alternative therapies and some personal choices, or, and you're going to know, especially if you're playing with being alert. But ultimately, no matter how you deal with what needs to be dealt with right now, and it may be a surgery, or it may be some other form of medicine, like that's an immediate way to help. But ultimately, what you want to look at is how else can I restore balance to my entire system, not just my physical body, but every part of my life. So it's not like one is pushed away and the other one is embraced, but you got to make use of what serves you right now. And that is sometimes, for people, that includes painkillers. You play with these aspects of pain, play with the approach and the relationship you have, but sometimes, man, you just got to take a Panadol. Sometimes you do. And so you want to make use of whatever help you can, but ultimately for me, like it's a question of where can I restore balance? And it's not just in one area. Like I said, it's that the pain is a flag that's waving for something which is playing out in many different areas. And when I see it, I can start to become more aware.
Thanks, Narayan. So we have a question from Caroline, which is, if the pain is the body telling us something, how do we know what that is without thinking and over-analysing it? Is the key to stay present and watch for clues to appear?
Yeah, for me, it's just doing whatever there is to do right now. We can get into just trying to work everything out, but it's not always just the body you know, giving you a signal. But for me, sometimes it's emotion that actually wants to come through. You know, I get a fear that just rises up sometimes that floors me, and my whole body tenses when that's the case, and then something will start hurting, and it's just allowing that movement that wants to happen in my body to move, and then it goes. And if it doesn't go from that, then it's just being alert for me. It's being alert and attentive and seeing what presents, whether it's a thought that occurs to me, or somebody else will come along and just go, oh, you know, you look like you could do with. And it's, for me, like, the answers just come, but you kind of want to let the answers come and just make a choice rather than thinking, because in my experience, the more I get lost in just thinking and trying to work it out, that actually has an impact on my body, and everything just feels heavier and more uncomfortable anyway. So it's a tricky one sometimes, but for me, it's an intuitive hit rather than thinking that leads me to what needs to be done. And if there's nothing that presents to do, then just be attentive now and see how your relationship changes within that experience.
Thanks, Mira. So we have a question from Yvonne Brush, and she's asking, how can we apply this to mental pain, for example, anxiety, depression, and fear?
Yeah, I mean, some of those things require some external help, and that's part of it too. You know, surrendering to the fact that, okay, this is going on right now, and I need some help. But no matter what the help is, it'll get you to a place where you stop, where you stop the struggle around it, because there's enough impact just from the experience without struggling against it as well. So again, if you're applying awareness and consciousness and curiosity to what it is that's actually going on, and you see where you're resisting, sometimes your relationship to those things can change completely as well. And you know, and I'm sharing that from my experience. But it's a tricky thing, because it's not like, and say we'll take anxiety for it's just one thing. It's a spectrum of experience that starts in a bit where you get a little bit worried about what you're going to have for dinner, but it can actually, at the other end of the spectrum, it's completely debilitating. Like somebody can't function. And so there's not one thing in there. But yeah, recognizing that sometimes that's there because you need to ask for help. Some other kind of help is important to know as well.
Thank you. So we have a question from Nirmala. Could you, Ryan, share the experience you mentioned that you recently had?
Which one was that?
See if I can find her.
I think she means the experience that you were talking about that you had at the beginning of the year.
Oh, yeah. Sure, why not? Yeah, I was at lunch, and my heart stopped, like just stopped. And it was amazing, because it happened so fast that it's a little hard to explain, but everything just disappeared. It wasn't like I watched everything disappear. There was no moment where there was a fear of dying or not dying, because living had ceased to have ever happened. Everything was gone. Not gone in the sense that it had been there and was no longer there, like it had never been there. And after however long it was, and it felt like forever to me, because it was timeless, with this immense violence, like my heart started beating again, right? Just like boom. And the pulse rate went ballistic through the roof. My blood pressure and my blood pressure is always perfect. My pulse is like, you know, it always annoys Sata, because every time you take my blood pressure, it's perfect. Pulse rate's right around 58. But no, my pulse rate for 3 months was way off the charts. My blood pressure was all over the place. And but that was okay. So that was the physical thing that played out, kind of, in a nutshell. but it really, what I got to see, I got to see two things. The first one was that, and I had a cup of tea with one of our teachers today, not far from here. I was sharing this with him, actually, funnily enough. One of the things I got to see was that if there was anywhere in my experience where I wanted to compromise, where I was going to compromise or not just make this moment, appreciate this moment of life for the miracle that it really is, if there was anywhere where that was happening, I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. Right? There was no space for it anymore. The preciousness, the sacredness, the miracle of being able to have this experience now, the appreciation for that was off the charts. And it wasn't like a mental choice. It was just what was left. But also, and this is kind of cool, was there wasn't so many places where that was happening in the first place, which is pretty nice. But, you know, any place where I was going to take a moment of this life seriously disappeared in that. And I don't know, there's some people here I don't know, but I can tell you this, like my relationship with time and has not been solid since the moment I was born. I haven't had a relationship with the physical world that's what you would call normal ever in this lifetime. But the beauty and the sacredness and just the miracle of being able to be aware now, just in no matter what, there's so much gratitude. I don't have to try to be grateful for anything. It's just the way it is. And it doesn't matter if there's physical pain or no physical pain. It doesn't matter if I'm so grateful for I mean, it's insane, the miracle of being able to have this experience, just to be able to be here now and to see and feel and touch and taste. It's like, that's amazing. So I wouldn't trade the push that gave in my experience, the momentum that gave to the experience of consciousness that I'm blessed to have. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I would not want to not have had that experience for the world, even though essentially in that moment I was dead. It's amazing how you got to face, like really, really look mortality in the face to just embrace your immortality. It wasn't such a radical change, right? It wasn't such a massive change, but I'm so grateful, so grateful for all of it. There's so many gifts in everything that comes, and the mind, and I know what will happen if I say that is that your mind will start projecting onto things that you cannot allow yourself to be grateful for, and that's okay. But you got to see that that's a mechanism of the ego protecting itself, actually. When you start to move, when all you've got to do is not try to feel grateful for anything, but start to actually look for what gift might be in this for me right now. Not mentally, just to be open. Because no matter what it is, there's a gift, no matter what. And when you start to look at life like that, you start to move towards gratitude. And in gratitude, everything changes. If you want to wake up and you want to be conscious, actually, I don't see another way than to make that shift from judgment and resistance towards gratitude and acceptance. I just don't see another way. You can't do it as a mental concept. It can't be done. Well, you can make some steps towards it, actually. I shouldn't say that. But to go all the way, it requires you to drop those things and move into an experience. And that's why we're so blessed to have these tools. That's what the first sphere does. That's what Ascension does, is it releases, just for a moment, releases you from resistance. And immediately what happens is you move into a space of gratitude, because gratitude is what's left when you're no longer resisting. And so, but if you pay attention, it makes it clearer. If you pay attention, it makes it faster. If you pay attention, it makes it more solid. You want to pay attention to really what this technique is doing. It's not going to get you to a place maybe where you have one color of clothes in the wardrobe, or where you have an Eastern name. That's not it. You may have that or you may not, but it's moving you into a place where you wake up. And the key to that is to let go of the resistance to what's happening now and pay attention, because when you do, you move into gratitude. And that gratitude changes you consciously, it changes you physically, it changes your body chemistry, it changes your neurology, it changes your psychology, it changes all of you. It's so, so simple. You don't have to figure out how to do it, but you want to apply the tools that you have. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful dance. But this moment that you have, no matter what's in this moment, no matter what it is, this moment is a miracle. And the ego will convince you well, it'll do this a couple of different ways, but one of the things it'll try to convince you of is that you always get another moment to enjoy. And that's true, you will, but it does it in a way that stops you living now. And that's a tragedy. You have awareness, you have consciousness, and it's exactly the way that it's meant to be. And everything that's in this experience, all of it is there because it's meant to be, including the pain. Everything that's in this experience is here because it's meant to be here. And if it wasn't meant to be here, it wouldn't be. But that revelation can only occur by dropping the resistance. And the funny thing is, when that happens, it aligns you with an infinitely creative force that can change the circumstance in a way that's permanent. But the first step towards healing anything is to absolutely surrender to the fact that right now that's the way it is. Not 99%, not 98%, 100%. Doesn't matter if it's your physical condition or the world, the consciousness of humanity. You know, all I've ever wanted is to heal humanity, but in order for that to happen, I surrender 100% to the fact that right now this is the way it is. Yeah. I don't know why we started talking about that, but there you go.
Thanks, Narayan. Okay, so we have 2 questions from Clemence, which are, do you think that being conscious of the experience can make it go away, as in being cured of a disease? And the second question is, how can we help loved ones with their experience of pain and chronic severe diseases, people who don't ascend?
I've forgotten what the first question was now.
Okay.
Maybe one at a time.
Sure. Okay, so the first one is, do you think that being conscious of the experience can make it go away, as in being cured of a disease?
For me, I don't even think of it in terms of being cured of anything anymore. It's just what is there for me right now. You know, the condition I have, I would probably say I still have it, but I don't identify with it anymore. And sometimes there are steps that are useful to take to help support the health of your body. And sometimes actually doing something kind of just keeps me in the experience. So I don't even think of it in terms of curing anything anymore. It's just like, what's there right now? Is there anything I can see to change it? If there is, I'll take those steps. If not, I surrender to it, I accept it. And then solutions come, or my experience completely and utterly changes. Like the fullness of this moment is so immense that there's no room for any thoughts about a cure, about an illness, or anything else. And that experience is what drives me, the fullness of now, to experience and rest in that experience ongoing. If you have anything else, Narayan, then feel free to add.
No, that was great.
Okay, so the second one is, how can we help loved ones with their experience of pain and chronic severe diseases, people who don't ascend?
For me, it's just love them. Ask them what they need. You know, I think for me, having seen, for me, it's not a physical thing, but seeing my daughter struggle with anxiety. The greatest experience for me in that was just being there with her, just loving her. And so it just became, for me, just asking, is there anything I can do for you now? What can I do for you now? Do you want to talk? Do you want me to leave you? And just asking that question, and just being there and really listening to what they have to say, not to come up with a solution, but to just hear them, just accept them 100% as they are right now. And from there, magic happens, actually. And with my daughter, we went through quite some time of me gradually letting go and letting go and letting go, not needing to fix or change her, and feeling like I was absolutely doing nothing for her whatsoever. And then now she's in a good place. And she actually shared with me a little while ago, like, thanks for being there, Mum. Like, you got me through that. Just by being there, just by being there, by listening. But I just was there for her, and she felt that. She felt that. She couldn't necessarily see it in the moment, and didn't appear like I was providing any support at all, but she felt it, and when she came through it, she could share that with me. So for me, just love them and ask them what you can do to help.
Thanks, Mira. Yeah. So we have some questions from Durrani East. And the first one is, I think I heard two things. One, release the story by putting attention on pain. And two, release attention by putting attention on silence. Which is it, or can it be both?
I don't know if, I'm not going to say you didn't hear that, but I don't know that that's what was said. But it's just really simple, Durrani, like, come back and make it really simple. Whatever this means for you, whenever you notice that you're resisting the experience you're having in terms of pain, stop the resistance. Stop it. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to make it anything. Don't follow your mind into another moment. Just allow the experience to be what it is. And your curious exploration of that is the journey. Mira, you have anything?
No. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so a question from Sudana. What's your take on using some kind of visualization for healing the pain, like imagining perfect state or the organ pain already healed?
Well, that's something I played with for a while. And for me, it gave temporary reprieve only. Like, it almost kept the whole thing in play. So my experience with that is that it's not something I do anymore, because it was really kind of just like, it helped, and then I was back where I started again. It helped, I was back where I started again. So I don't know if you have anything different on that, Narayan, but for me, it's an extra step that isn't necessary in my experience. It's more important that I'm alert and attentive to what's there right now, and then see what presents to do. If visualization presents to do, then do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be very powerful to do that, but it also can, again, just stay alert. The key to discover who you are is really what the gift in all this, to discover who you are. And so in order to discover who you are, rather than trying to, you can do all of those things, but what you want to do is the same thing we've been talking about. When you drop the resistance, you allow yourself to move into the space of the awareness that's having the experience. And that's the key to freedom. Nothing else will set you truly free. But yeah, visualization, all that stuff can be really, really powerful. I've experienced that too. But you want to look at what you're doing, how much time you're doing it for, and why you're doing it. But it's definitely play with it if you want to.
And we have a question from Sheila. Do you have any advice to help someone suffering from PTSD and emotional pain, please?
Mira, you have anything?
Yeah. So for me, I have flashbacks of something that happened to me when I was very young. And so when that happens, it can completely knock me off center. And it's so muddies the water. I really don't know which way is up and which way is down, you know. And it's like my whole body freezes and goes into shock in a way. And I almost lose all capacity to choose for stillness. I lose all capacity to even kind of know who I am. It's like I just get lost in a debilitating feeling. And the way I handle it is I just ride it out. I just wait for it to pass. To the best of my ability, I let everything be exactly as it is right now. And accepting help is something that I find very, very useful in that situation. You know, there's usually somebody with me. If there's not, often it'll last until there is somebody with me. But I think the people around me kind of sometimes can be that guiding light, that signpost back to myself in a way. And yeah, it's difficult sometimes when that happens, but it's getting easier and easier. And for me, having a consistent practice using the Ascension techniques is what is giving me the basis, a foundation for when these experiences come. So now I don't get lost in them. So having something that is bringing you back to this moment again and again and again is crucial, in my experience anyway, at allowing you to move through these experiences and out the other side until you can choose again. So it's been about an hour. So maybe one more question. Is that okay with you, Narayan?
Yeah, sure.
That's amazing, because there is one more question. And it is from someone called iPhone. And it says, do you think that you can heal the body with yoga and ascending?
Well, I can't do yoga at the moment because of the the mobility issues I'm currently experiencing. So I can't really answer that part of it. What was the other part of it with Ascension? My experience of using Ascension is that my body has just gotten lighter and easier, but really it's more about making peace with what's happening and being okay with what's happening right now. Allows my body to do what it needs to do, you know. So it's often with resistance, it's like I can feel there's a movement that wants to happen through me, and I kind of tighten against that before I even realize what's going on, and then it's the intensity that alerts me to the fact that I'm doing that, and then I just tune into my body and just be really present with it, and then just let it be exactly as it is. Notice where I'm feeling it, and just in that noticing and that acknowledgement without needing it to change, and it starts to move. But Ascension is the foundation for that. It's what changes my experience from day to day, actually, you know. So I become more willing. I become more open to letting everything be exactly as it is right now. And yeah, I'm definitely healthier since I learned to ascend. So for me, it's a beautiful, supportive practice, but it's not something that you want to be using to heal yourself. You know, the minute you have any agenda in there that you want the Ascension techniques to do, it slows down the whole process, keeps the mind in play, and if you keep the mind in play, then it's going to limit your experience and what's possible. You know, for me, it's like just being curious and open to what's possible without needing anything in particular to happen. Anything to add, Narayan?
No, not to add. That was beautiful. Really. I'm gonna imagine that background behind me doesn't say the bright path. Narayan's not there, and I'm wearing a pink shirt for a moment, right? The universe that you look at, the chair you're sitting on, the body you inhabit, the air you're breathing, everything around you, your mind will tell you is solid, and it's not. It's not. It's almost entirely not there at all. And all of it is one vibrating potential in consciousness, right? One potential in an infinite sea of potential in consciousness. Nothing about it is solid. Anything can change. And that's why I absolutely know that miracles are possible. So can the physical condition in your body change? I know it. I know in a heartbeat it can change. But that's not up to you, really. That's secondary to what you're actually born to do, which is to reconnect with your divinity. And if you want to do that, recognizing that every part of your experience right now, every part of it is an expression of that. Your body, everything that's going on in your body, your world, everything that's going on in your world. And so if you want to bear witness to that unfolding into higher and higher forms of itself, you have to surrender to the fact that right now, this is the way it is, right now. It doesn't mean that the desire to change is bad. It's awesome. Of course you want to change. Of course you want to be free of illness and free of pain and free of all those things. Of course you do, and that's good and it's right. But in order to move towards that, you have to begin to learn to let go of the resistance we have to what's actually happening now. Because what happens when you do that, when you let go of the resistance, is that peace is immediate. Peace is immediate when you do that. The payoff is immediate when you let go. And if you pay attention and you can consciously experience that, that becomes your path. You know, so can anything happen? Yeah, absolutely it can. And you know what? There's all manner of things in your world that can help you move towards that. But surrendering what you think that should look like, how that should go, or if that should even happen is really, really important. Ascension is not a healing tool. Not because consciousness can't heal, but because that's not the primary focus. The primary focus is on for you to discover what it is that you really, really are. And that can only happen now, regardless of whatever else is happening, you know. Letting go of the resistance is the key to it. And I can't see, I'm open to the possibility of there being another way, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it. What you really want in your heart, what you really want is to be free. And you could say that a lot of different ways. You could talk, I want unconditional love, I want endless joy, I want seamless peace. All of those things, whatever you would say, you want to be free. And eventually we need to really recognize that in order to have that, we got to let go of the conditions we have around it. So I'll do that once my body's better. I'll do that once my pain goes away. I'll do that once my bank account's better. Then I'll know I'm moving towards it. You see, it's a trap. The mind has us caught in this trap, and the trap is called time. I had an experience in the past, and I'm scared it's going to happen again. I need to learn from that so I can prevent myself from having that experience in another moment. And it keeps us out of the one thing that's real, which is now. And I know that sounds simplistic and like spiritual pat answers, but the fact of the matter is that's reality. This moment here is where your life is happening. Experience it, live it, no matter what. The opportunity that this moment gives you is not necessarily to heal, it is, but it's not necessarily to heal the way the mind thinks it, or it's not necessarily to do anything, it's just to live. The experience that this moment is presenting to you is to live, and it's a gift. It's an absolute gift, but ego doesn't see it like that. The mind doesn't see it like that. But Ascension, or any good meditation really, but with the guidance that you have, it'll help you move into that space, you know. But don't for a moment let your mind go miracles, tell you miracles aren't possible, because they are. Anything's possible.
Thank you, Narayan. And thank you, Shukri Devi, for supporting us on this call. And thank you everyone for attending too. You know, it only happens because of you guys that show up. So yeah, it's been wonderful. Actually, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you, everyone. And if you don't know what the Ascension techniques are and you want to know, I put in the chat box the Bright Path website address and also my email address if you have any questions or anything that you want to know. The Ascension techniques are only taught in person, so you know, that's a bit up in the air at the moment with the COVID virus. So yeah, if you want to be put on a list to learn, then just contact me. And for those that aren't watching it live, I'll put it near wherever we post the replay, if we post the replay. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Shukri. Thank you, Mira. Thank you for everyone for coming. Fill the world up with love. Let's go. Woo!